Now we're getting these inequalities. Now notice, describe and graph these as well, right? So this, again, since it says minus, we're going to say that's translated. Right 5 units. And up 3 units. Notice since they're both translations, I don't really need to see translated and translated again, right? So that's why I just used the word translated once. But then there's also, right, then vertical stretch. And now you could either say, this one's the kind of tricky one, you could say it's stretched by a scale factor of 1/4. It might help you if you say it's vertically compressed, right? Because compressed, like if you think of compression, they're kind of like squashed. It's going to be actually shorter than what the original would be. So maybe you can just say vertically compressed, right? It's going to be, just to be technical, stretched with a scale factor of 1/4. It's compressed with a scale factor of 4, right? Scale factor of 4. If you're saying compressed, if you're saying stretched, it's 1/4. So it's kind of tricky. I am okay with you just saying vertically compressed, right? For now, we're just going to say just vertically compressed is going to be just fine. Again, we're going to find that starting point. Since I've gone right 5 and up 3, that's where I'm going to start. So right 5 and up 3, and that's when I'm going to start. Again, it might be kind of helpful to plot some points, or even if you know it, you typically would go 1 unit over and 1 unit up, right? You'd go 1, 2, 3, 4 units over and 2 units up, and so on. Right? We're actually going to go 1/4 of that. So we're down to 1/4, and we're down to 1/4 of 2, a half and half again is just a half. Right? So it's going to be barely like this, just barely, right? Because it's super squashed. Right? Again, if you can plug those points in if you'd like, you're welcome to plug into a T-chart here at 6. Right? So we obviously plugged in the first one, we plugged in 5, and we got 3. Then if you plug in 6, again, 7, 8, 9, maybe the 9's the next one you want to plug in there when you say minus 5 is 4 to be able to get those ordered pairs. This is going to be 3 1/4, and this is going to be 3 1/2. Right? So to make sure you're plotting those points. Now, Miss Mickle, why is this different than the other ones? Well, of course, maybe you've seen it. It's the square, the greater than or equal to, right? So it's going to be a solid curve like we just did there. But notice there's a greater than or equal to. I need to shade part of this. But just like we did before, we can kind of plug in some points. The difference in this part is, remember that nothing, right? Nothing over here even works at all. I don't even want this part shaded at all. The only thing I'm going to be able to shade is to the right of this. Right? I can only shade above or below my curve. I can't shade anything to the left of that. The function doesn't exist over here. Right? So I can't write it at all. I can't shade it at all either. So my question is, do I shade above or below the curve? Right? Now, if you're trying to test a point here, you're going to have to plug in something above 5, right? 5 or above. Or really, you could say, does it work? Is 5, 4 going to be shaded? Question mark. Right? Maybe you instead want to pick like, is 6, 4 going to be shaded or something like that? What I mean by that is whenever you plug those numbers into the inequality, I'm going to say, is this true? If I take the square root of 6 minus 5 and then add 3, right, is that greater than or equal to 4? Well, it's equal to 4, so that would actually work, right, or so on. So we know that we're going to shade, or really, if you just want to think of it as well, some people like to just say, okay, greater than is above, right? So greater than is above, and so we're going to shade everything. Notice everything has to stop right here, though. Okay, so everything above your curve, you cannot shade where x is smaller than your function is defined, though. You have to only shade in your domain, right? So you have to shade only in your domain, right? Notice this next one is going to be kind of a similar situation. Describe and graph while I'm translating right, or translated. Right 4 units. Again, it's the opposite sign as that inside. And hopefully you remember that that's down 6 units. Careful, right? Please make sure you notice that there's a dashed curve, right? The dashed curve to draw, right? Or you don't want to say line necessarily because you're not drawing a line, but it's going to be dashed because it's not or equal to. The last one was or equal to. I could close that and make it a solid. This one's not. So let's graph over 4 and down 6, 2, 4, 6. And notice that is going to be 1 over 1 up and 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2 up and so on. But notice I'm going to draw it dashed. Right, again, if it helps you to make your T-chart, that's totally fine. You can plug in your 4, your 5, your 8, and so on to get those ordered pairs. Right. Again, you can either think of it as saying if I plug in something above or below, you cannot plug anything less than 4 and it won't work. But if maybe you plug in something just to test and you say, does it work? Would 5, 0 work? I wonder if 5, 0 is shaded, right? So you could say, is 0 less than the square root of 5 minus 4 minus 6? Well, that's negative 5. No, right? So I must shade below instead. Again, you can plot a point and plug that in and say, is it a true statement? Or you can welcome to say, less than is going to be below. So I shade everything below it. So I shade up till it, right? I should not have actually gone past that. I know I'm just being a little bit particular, but I want to make sure you realize that I'm being, that I should not go through that. Maybe just a bit there, but I want to make sure you're careful as you can right there. So you're shading below. Again, I can't shade anything to the left of it, and I don't want to shade above either. So take a moment and look at the situation and try to deduce which one this might be, right? So which is the graph of the square root of 2x plus 4? Well, this is kind of tricky, but notice if you factor that out, or even if you just say, okay, the domain says this must be greater than or equal to 0. Well, it can't be B, can't be C. Right? So part of this is to process, and I could actually ask you to graph this, but really this is helping your deductive reasoning skills as well. Right? And then it says, wait a minute, greater than is always going to be above, not below. Again, you could check, you could say, does it work to go through the origin? If I plug in 0, is that greater than 0 plus 4? No, it's not. So that should not be shaded, right? It needs to be D. Go ahead and work on your exit ticket. Make sure you turn that into the tray with your name on it when you're done. The do not answer.